here this morning, and I understand she had come over with your brother and is looking forward to seeing government in action.
Correct.
My question, of course, was she being punished by anyone?
You're not being punished, are you, Haishing?
Welcome to this committee meeting.
So, members, we are coming to order now. I see Assemblymember Nava is patiently waiting. We don't yet have a quorum, but we will start as a subcommittee. Assemblymember Nava, would you like to take up AB 86?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair and Senators. Assembly Bill 86 is the Airport Patrol Officers Bill, and what it does, it permits contracting agencies, and it's voluntary, to authorize airport patrol officers to be classified as local safety members. Airport patrol officers are the primary law enforcement and first responders to all emergency and non-emergency calls for law enforcement services in airports, and they are required to carry firearms and other safety equipment. These officers meet or exceed post-training requirements. However, they are not classified with other peace officers under the Public Employee Retirement Law as local safety members. This bill would allow airport patrol officers the opportunity to negotiate for a retirement formula comparable to other peace officers who risk their well-being and for the safety of the community. This is not a local mandate. It only provides the option. I would respectfully ask for an aye vote when you have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Nava. This, members, this is an option for local agencies and enables them to choose. We don't see a cost to it, so when the time is right, I'd like a motion to pass. This is, and we'll take that up for a vote when we have a quorum. Are there any comments now, members? Thank you, Mr. Nava. This is Senate Appropriations. I forgot to say that at the start of the meeting.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Beg your pardon. How could I forget? Mr. Perry, if you'd like to make a comment on support, please go right ahead.
Madam Chair, members, Randy Perry there and Reed Associates on behalf of PORAC and others that we just feel that it's a local option. Its pensions are negotiable, and this would leave that negotiable.
Thank you. And Finance, do you have a comment?
Madam Chair and members, my name is Rob Schlotel with the Department of Finance, and we do not see any state costs associated with this bill.
Thank you very much. All righty. Members, we could go on to those items in which where there's been a waiver of presentation, and those items are AB 65 by Ms. Hayashi, AB 110 by Mr. Smythe, AB 301 by Mr. Fuentes, AB 1071 by Mr. Emerson, AB 344 by Ms. Caballero, and AB 654 by Mr. Mendoza. So Ms. Hayashi's item is first, AB 65. It creates a self-funded vision care program for retired local members, school members, and university members to be administered by CalPERS. Is there any testimony in favor? Is there any testimony opposed? Finance, do you have a comment?
No, Madam Chair.
Thank you. It meets the suspense criteria, and we'll take it up when we have a quorum. Members, for those who are members of the Senate Appropriations Committee, if you could report to 42. Senator Duchesne, we can take you up right now. We don't yet have a quorum, but as soon as we do, we will take up our votes. And you are taking up SCA 14, Senator?
Yes.
Go right ahead.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and members. This constitutional amendment proposes to try to rein in the cost of initiative measures. We know that a lot of our dysfunction in the budget has been related to initiatives that spend money without creating the revenues to support them. We've had this happen over and over again, and the notion that we have in this bill is to say that Finance, Department of Finance and the LAO must certify that a measure actually has funding in it in order to support to be able to be placed on the ballot, that we wouldn't be able to place it on the ballot unless the measure in fact funds itself in some fashion or finds a way to convince folks that it will not cost the general fund and it won't have direct impacts, or at least states exactly where the money would be coming from. It is supported by counties and others, and I would ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Senator Duchesne, and I will take a motion when we have a quorum. Mr. Price, thank you very much. Is there testimony in favor of SCA 14? Any opposition? Senator,
Go ahead with finance. Sorry.
Finance, do you have a comment?
I'm sorry, we do not have a file on this.
All righty. Senator Leno?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to applaud the author for bringing this forward. I don't think there can be any serious conversation about governmental reform without this being a part of that conversation. We know that our initiative process, which the voters rightfully deserve, has had an impact on how government operates at this point, but there has not been this requirement in the past. And so as a result, we see our ever-shrinking general fund being eaten away bite by bite with every initiative that passes. This must be a part of any kind of serious reform, and if it's possible, to be added as a co-author at some point, I would like that.
Thank you. We may be taking an amendment, Senator Leno, to clarify an issue that's come up a couple times about bonds. There's been an issue as to whether or how this could apply to bond measures, and I think for the moment we probably want to keep it to, but we do want to include the statutory. I think we took that amendment in the other committee, that statutory as well as constitutional amendments would be required to submit to the process.
Thank you, Senator. Any other comments, members? Then we'll take this will be a suspense item unless there's objection, Senator, but we have to wait for a quorum.
Okay. Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. And I see the Assembly Appropriations Chair in the front row, Mr. De Leon. Would you like to take up your item? You have AB 400. Welcome.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I'll be very brief. Good morning, members. Madam Chair, it's a pleasure to be here with each and every one of you. AB 400 as a state budget transparency component to the fiscal IT project, which is currently in the planning and development stage. The Department of Finance, DOF, already intends to include the public portal in the fiscal system. AB 400 sets up the parameters. It's a bipartisan bill, and I respectfully ask for an aye vote. Thank you very much, Madam Chair, as well as members.
And is there testimony in favor of AB 400? Any opposition? Finance, do you have a comment?
Yes, Madam Chair, we're fine with this bill as it is.
Members, any comments? Mr. De Leon will take a motion to pass when we have a quorum. We don't yet.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you, sir.
Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Let's see. Ms. Lowenthal, I think you're next on the file. This is AB 248, and we don't yet have a quorum, but when we do, we will take a vote. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair, committee members. AB 248 is a simple tool to allow the State Lands Commission to acquire a little more information to help protect our coastal waters from the expensive problem of marine invasive species. It will add a small additional piece of record keeping for ships visiting California ports. These ships already record ballast water management practices, but this bill simply asks them to record if they have a ballast water treatment system installed, the organization and certification number of the system, and how many ballast tanks and how much volume is treated with the system, as well as maintain some other information for occasional review by the State Lands Commission. This will allow the State Lands Commission to evaluate performance standards and compliance with a 10-year phase-in of ballast water treatment standards. The cost is minimal. The State Lands Commission has stated that it can cover the minor costs incurred by the bill with the fees it now assesses on ships making port in California.
Thank you, Ms. Lowenthal. We have a quorum now. Will you call the roll, please?
Kehoe?
Here.
Kehoe here. Cox? Here. Cox here. Corbett? Denham? Hancock? Leno?
Mr. Leno?
Leno here. Here. Oropesa Price? Here. Price here. Runner? Walters? Here. Walters here. Wolk? Wolk here. Wyland? Here. Wyland here. Yee? Yee here.
Thank you, members. We have a quorum. And is there testimony in favor of AB 248 by Ms. Lowenthal? Go ahead, right ahead.
Mario DiBernardo with the State Lands Commission. We are the sponsors of this bill and strongly support it and urge your aye vote. We've been working closely with the shipping industry as well as other state agencies, environmentalist groups on this bill, and have actually received the support of the Pacific Merchant Shipping Association.
Thank you. Any additional testimony? Any opposition testimony? Finance, do you have a comment?
Madam Chair, we concur with the cost estimate and that it would be absorbable.
Very good. Members, any comments? This is a due pass with technical amendments. Is that correct? Yes. Mr. Price, do we have a motion on that? So moved. Thank you very much. We'll call the roll.
Kehoe?
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Cox? Cox, aye. Corbett? Denham? Hancock? Leno?
Mr. Leno, on Ms. Lowenthal's bill? Aye. Thank you.
Leno, aye. Oropesa? Price? Aye. Price, aye. Runner? Walters? Aye. Walters, aye. Wolk? Wolk, aye. Wyland? Aye. Wyland, aye. Yee? Yee, aye. 8-0. It can go out.
8-0. I'll keep the roll open for another few minutes for the absent members.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Mr. Emerson, I think you're up next. You have 3 items. You're waiving a presentation on 1071.
No, I believe it was.
You can present.
Okay.
Very good.
I'd like to start with 318, please.
318, then we'll do 501, then we'll do 1071.
Okay.
318,
go right 501 right now. So, anyway, yes. Assembly Bill 619, which was signed into the governor last year, would authorize the DMV to administer a one-time vehicle registration amnesty program for vehicle owners who had previously registered their vehicles illegally. Vehicle owners who participate in this amnesty program are required to pay back fees and taxes. It is estimated that this will bring in about $385 million in additional revenue to the state. The governor signed that bill with the provision that we'd bring back a inspection fee bill to correct that. So that's what this bill is about, and I would respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Emerson. Is there testimony in favor? Is there any opposition testimony? This is 318, members. Finance, do you have a comment on AB 318?
Yes, Madam Chair. We indicate that this bill would not result in any new state cost and that the fee collected could help offset some of BAR's costs.
Is there any comments, members? Otherwise, I'll take a motion. Do pass. Ms. Wolk-Moos, we'll call the roll, please.
Kehoe?
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Cox? Aye. Cox, aye. Corbett? Aye. Corbett, aye. Denham? Hancock? Leno? Aye. Leno, aye. Oropesa? Price? Aye. Price, aye. Runner? Walters? Aye. Walters, aye. Wolk? Aye. Wolk, aye. Wyland? Wyland, aye. Yee? Yee, aye. 9-0.
That is 9-0.
Thank you.
Do we have just one moment, Mr. Do we have most of the members here? Maybe we should just close the roll rather than have to go through a whole bunch of them.
We're missing. Corbett is here now. 1, 2. We're missing 3.
Who are we missing? Orpesa's not going to be here.
No, she's not. Hancock and
That's it.
and Runner. Who's not here?
Okay, I'll keep it open a little bit. Mr. Emerson, it looks like they're still in discussion. So would you like to take up the AB 1071?
71, yeah, that'd be good. Thank you. Assembly Bill 1071 adjusts application and renewal fees to ensure that the Board of Pharmacy has sufficient funds to fulfill all of its duties as a consumer protection agency. The board has streamlined its business processes where appropriate, but it still has not had been able to achieve additional cost savings. The board recently underwent an independent fee audit to determine the real cost to process applications. Many of the board's fees did not cover the cost to deliver the service, and it has not been changed since 1987. The findings of this audit were built into the proposed fee structure. AB 1071 ensures that the board has the resources necessary to oversee the pharmacy industry and protect consumers. There is no opposition. I respectfully ask for your aye vote. And with me today is Ann Sodergren from the Board of Pharmacy to testify on behalf of the
Welcome.
bill. Hi. Good morning. My name is Ann Sodergren with the Board of Pharmacy. We are the sponsors of this bill. This bill would establish new statutory minimum and maximum fees. For the majority of the board's fees, the current statutory maximum would become the new statutory minimum. There are 11 fees that would be increased as a result of this proposal immediately. Of those 11 fees, 6 will only increase by $5. Thank you.
Madam Chair, if there's not any opposition, I would move the bill.
Is there opposition? I don't see any. Maybe a comment from Finance?
Madam Chair, we find that currently the board spends about $2 million a year, more than it takes in fees, and this bill would pretty much nearly offset that shortfall.
I have a motion from Senator Cox. We'll call the roll, please.
Kehoe?
Aye.
Kehoe, I. Cox?
Aye.
Cox, I. Corbett? Corbett, I. Denham? Hancock? Leno?
1071. Good bill.
Leno, I. Oropesa? Price? Price, I. Runner? Walters? Wolk? Wolk, I. Wyland? Wyland, I. Yee? D. I. 8-0.
8-0. Mr. Emerson, we'll keep that open for the absent members.
We're okay.
Very good. So you'll go ahead and then present on AB 501?
Yes, I will.
Go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. AB 501 would allow the medical board to issue an initial limited license to an applicant who is otherwise eligible for a medical license in California but is unable to practice all aspects of medicine safely due to a disability. This bill is needed to address those cases where a physician with a limited license moves to California from another state and can only practice medicine in a limited capacity. Unfortunately, current law does not allow the board to issue an initial license, only a probationary license, which is a form of disciplinary action taken against a physician. AB 501 would also permit a medical doctor from another state or country or a retired California doctor to use the title MD in lectures, writings, and in other situations. The way the law is currently written, a doctor who is not licensed by the Medical Board of California may not use his professional title. Furthermore, this bill would also establish a cap on licensing fee imposed by the Medical Board. We have worked out some amendments. We accept your staff one on the audit, and we will propose a amendment on the other issue that was raised in your.
Senator Cox.
I wondered about why we need this bill. Thank you for your explanation, but it's such that when you come to California and you're not a licensed physician, an MD, you're not allowed to use that title, correct? Under all circumstances?
Yes.
So I've been invited to speak. I'm a New York physician. I've been invited to speak in San Diego. It's a 2-week conference. I'm going to speak 3 or 4 times. Do you mean to tell me that I can't use my title MD there?
Linda Whitney, representing the Medical Board of California. As it's written in current law, yes, that is correct. You're not supposed to be using MD.
And does that mean then that I would have to apply for a license in order to do that?
Under current law, under
How about
this bill,
this new provisional law?
you would be allowed to come to speaking engagements, conferences, participate in continuing medical education. In addition, you'd be able to work at the universities, the medical schools.
But does that mean I still have to get permission from the?
No, you do not. As long as you do not, under this bill, as long as you do not represent yourself as a practicing physician licensed in California to provide care for patients, then you may use the MD that you earned in medical school.
All right. Thank you, Madam Chair.
And then, Mr. Emerson, you've taken the last amendment, and the amendment on the top of page 2 having to do with whether or not signed under penalty of perjury is going to be in the bill or not. Walk us through that.
I'm offering a modified amendment to that. Senator Leno and the board worked that out.
All righty, go right ahead.
Sure. Okay. The concern here is that as the bill is currently written, signs an agreement on a form prescribed by the board signed under penalty of perjury. Perjury is a felony, which can put someone in state prison for many years.
2, 4, or 6 years.
Correct.
Yes.
And that obviously would trigger our concern for receivership and overcrowding aggravation, which is our ROCA policy at public safety. With this language in it, we would have to pull it into public safety and hold the bill. We don't want to do that. So we think we have found a way around that concern so that the board will still have a trigger, and they've got a bigger hammer, which is the revocation of the license. So why don't you proceed?
C then would read, any person who knowingly provides false information in the agreement submitted pursuant to subdivision A shall be subject to remedies available to the board, which is the revocation of a license if they've blatantly lied to the medical board.
And so the printed language you see here under C with regard to the civil penalties of $1,000 and maximum of 20, they don't want that. They just want to be able to use the remedies you already have if someone knowingly.
Correct.
Deceives
knowingly, yes.
That's acceptable,
Yeah, that's fine.
Mr. Leonard. Generally, so is there further testimony in favor?
Happy Chastain, University of California. This is a real problem for many of our residents and our researchers who have rightfully, earned a doctorate degree but cannot use the title under current law. So we ask for your support.
Any other testimony in favor? Is there opposition testimony? Finance, do you have a comment?
Yes, there are no costs associated with this bill.
Members, then we have I'll need a motion to pass as amended.
So moved.
Mr. Leno makes that motion. We'll call the roll, please.
Kehoe?
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Cox? Cox, aye. Corbett? Corbett, aye. Denham? Hancock? Leno?
Aye.
Leno, aye. Oropeza? Price? Price, aye. Runner? Walters? Walters, aye. Wolk? Wolk, aye. Wyland? Yee? Yee, aye. 8-0.
8-0, Mr. Emerson. Good job. We're going to keep the roll open for the absent members.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Fletcher, I think you are up. Welcome. You have AB 356.
Yes, ma'am.
Go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, Madam Chair and members. I'd like to begin by thanking the Chair and the committee staff for their hard work on this important bill. We're pleased to accept the suggested amendments and believe that they strengthen our bill. As many of you know, physician assistants provide patient care as members of physician-directed teams. Their scope of practice is derived from supervising physicians, and they practice in virtually all areas of medicine. I worked with PAs closely in the military and have seen firsthand the great work that they can do. Across the nation, PAs are increasingly delegated procedures that require the use of ionizing radiation. Yet in California, despite an access to care crisis highlighted by a shortage of medical care professionals, and despite the fact that a majority of other states allow PAs to perform these same procedures, there's no reasonable avenue for physician assistants to acquire the necessary permit. This legislation fixes that problem. It allows physician assistants to be classified in the laws governing the practice of radiology in California. Under this legislation, PAs, just like chiropractors, podiatrists, and physicians, will be able to sit for certain Board of Public Health radiological exams, and if passed, they will be able to perform certain procedures using ionizing radiation within their supervising physician's current scope of practice. Allowing PAs to perform these procedures will expand access to care in rural and underserved communities where patients sometimes have to make multiple appointments or drive miles to a separate facility to obtain these services. It will also be helpful to areas in high volume where long lines and crowded hospitals force patients to wait hours for necessary treatment. The bill takes an unnecessary burden off physicians who would otherwise have to spend valuable time doing procedures that a more qualified PA could be assisting them with and freeing them up to attend to more relevant and pressing matters. We've worked with the various stakeholders. We've taken numerous amendments throughout the process. We've added educational requirements to ensure they're well-versed. We've taken the suggested amendments from the committee to tighten the funding mechanism and fee structure for these. I believe this legislation is appropriate, safe, and of good public benefit to California. I respectfully request an aye vote.
Thank you, Mr. Fletcher. Very good. Testimony in favor?
Yes, Madam Chair, members, Bryce Doherty, on behalf of the California Academy of Physician Assistants, proud sponsors of the bill. I want to thank the committee staff for the work on the amendment. We think that's a great suggestion. We urge your aye vote. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional testimony in favor?
Madam Chair, members, Linda Whitney, representing the Medical Board of California, we're in support.
Thank you very much. Any additional testimony in favor? Any opposition testimony? Finance, do you have a comment?
Madam Chair, we believe the cost would be relatively minor. However, we would point out that this fund currently has expenditures exceeding revenues. So even by providing an additional minor cost, you would exacerbate the upside-down nature of the fund.
What's the solution?
The amendment would allow DPH to charge permit fees sufficient to offset the costs.
Okay, I think that would probably address our concern. I was not aware of that. It's not in my analysis.
We've taken an amendment now to establish the fee for taking the exam and to establish a renewal fee each year for PAs that elect to go into these that we believe more than offsets the cost.
That sounds good.
Very good. Very good. Then I need a do pass as amended. Mr. Price makes the motion. Any questions, members? We'll call the roll, please.
Kehoe?
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Cox?
Aye.
Cox, aye. Corbett? Corbett, aye. Denham? Hancock? Leno?
Aye.
Leno, aye. Oropeza? Price?
Aye.
Price, aye. Runner? Walters?
Aye.
Walters, aye. Wolk? Aye. Wolk, aye. Wyland? Aye. Wyland, aye. Yee? Yee, aye. 9-0.
9-0, Mr. Fletcher. I'll keep it open for the absent members.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Members, we'll go back to authors that are waiving presentation. And the next one is Mr. Smythe, AB 110. This has to do with allowing the Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy to adjust boundaries of the rim of the canyon trail corridor to include Ellesmere Canyon. Is there testimony in favor? Is there any opposition testimony? Finance, do you have a comment?
No cost, Madam Chair.
This is a candidate for suspense, members, because of the potential for the cost of land acquisition. Are there any comments? Then without objection, we'll move it to suspense. That's Mr. Smythe. The next one is AB 301 by Mr. Fuentes, vended water, having to do with annual bottled water license and the information required therein. Is there any testimony in favor of AB 301? Any opposition testimony? There's opposition testimony? Please come on up, state your name.
Madam Chair, members of the committee, George Skradakis, Department of Public Health. We have an opposed position on this bill based on there isn't an increase in public public health to this issue, and also it has a state mandate. We would need money to operate the new database, which would be half position. And also, we currently collect a lot of this information already, but we do not have information related to different types of bottling sources versus private water source operators. So that would be a new issue.
Okay. Any other testimony in opposition or in favor? Finance, do you have a comment?
Madam Chair, we have costs of about $42,000 a year ongoing, and we would again note that it appears there is not sufficient resources in the fund to cover that cost.
Members, this is a candidate for suspense. Is there any comment? Then, without objection, we'll move it to the suspense file. Thank you. And I saw Assemblymember Monning arrive, so we can go to his item, which is AB 1217. Mr. Monning, you want to present the Ocean Protection Council? Welcome.
Yes. Thank you, Madam Chair, members. AB 1217 aims to establish a statewide standard for sustainable seafood. The bill would direct the Ocean Protections Council to develop and implement a protocol to guide entities on how to be certified by third-party organizations in accordance with internationally accepted standards for sustainable seafood. The bill would also direct the OPC to create a marketing label for sustainable seafood that is caught here in California waters. This proposal is consistent with the OPC's adopted strategic plan, as well as its enabling statute and funding sources. The Council's baseline budget anticipates new proposals such as the preparation of a marketing plan and logo for California sustainable seafood. It is my understanding that the OPC will be able to implement this program using existing resources. AB 1217 would protect consumers from being misled by inaccurate labeling, and perhaps most importantly, would provide support to California fishermen in selling their sustainable products. I respectfully ask for your aye vote. I have to testify here. First, Mr. Reed Addis, with the permission of the Chair.
Go right ahead.
Thank you, Chair and members. Reed Addis with the Monterey Bay Aquarium. We are the sponsors of the measure. Would like to just make one comment related to the analysis, which suggests that there would be a general fund impact from the bill. We would politely disagree with that, given that the language in Proposition 84 clearly says funds can be spent consistent with Section 35650 of the Public Resources Code. If you go to the Public Resources Code, you will see that these grants and loans would be consistent with that section. We would argue that Prop 84 can be used to pay those activities, and no general fund impact would occur. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional testimony in favor?
Chair Kehoe and members of the committee, Mark Thiessen with the Gualco Group on behalf of the California Association of Zoos and Aquariums, and CAZA is in strong support, and certainly want to associate ourselves with the testimony of the first witness, particularly with regard to the availability of Prop 84 bond funds for this program. Thank you.
Very good. Any other testimony in favor? Is there opposition testimony? Finance, do you have a comment?
Yes, Madam Chair, we also concur that Prop 84 could be used. We are a little concerned that it would create a new grant program for a resource that's already pretty well subscribed. Aside from that, though, we don't fund any general fund costs, and the costs for administration would be minor and absorbable.
Thank you. Members, is there a comment? Mr. Senator Cox.
There's only so many dollars. So if you take them and use them for this particular program, what are you taking it away from?
The OPC budget, as I understand it, has certain discretionary funds allocated to it, and as part of their strategic plan, built into that plan, contemplates support for the fishing community and for consumers to move towards the sustainable labeling. So my understanding, Senator, is that it's part of a strategic plan and that it's covered within the budget allocated. In other words, I'm not aware of taking from some existing program to be able to support this.
But that's what that's what you've said. That's what your witnesses said, is that they'd be able to use certain bond funds in order to make this program work. So if you take it from one program, you got to take it from another. Now, my personal opinion is that the Monterey Aquarium does a reasonably good job in advising all of the people who come to the aquarium as to what's good and what's bad, and what they even have signs up that say don't eat this because it's not sustainable.
That's right, Senator. They have the Fish Watch program. The aquarium is actually one of the sponsors of this bill. That Fish Watch list changes, and it's based on distribution to the public. This takes it the next step, and for California fishing community, if they use respected and accepted fishing practices that earn them the right to label and sell their fish catch as sustainable, that message then goes to the retail level, to consumers who may not be visiting the aquarium, but who either at their restaurant or at their supermarket will know that this particular salmon or swordfish was caught using the highest acceptable standards.
Do you think it's reasonable to anticipate that on the menu at the restaurant we will begin to see some labeling that says that if you eat this fish, it's not sustainable?
I think it would be the converse, Senator. The participating restaurant would voluntarily decide if they are going to embrace this level of marketing.
Much like the voluntary fast food calorie count.
My understanding is that one's not so voluntary. But
right.
I understand your question.
Thank you.
Thank you, Senator Cox. Any other comments, members? Mr. Weiland.
You know, I actually think there's some good things about this bill. But I don't understand a couple of things. Why you exempt aquaculture? Can you explain that to me?
Ask Mr. Addis if he would respond to that.
Yes, certainly, Senator Reed Addis with the Monterey Bay Aquarium. We have established and worked with the author on this bill to basically use international standards and to set basically a baseline standard for the state of California for private individuals who are trying to promote these various sustainable seafood labels. So we're basically saying the state of California should have a minimum base level standard by which all private entities would have to operate. There are no aquaculture international standards to be used. Therefore, we're just silent or exempting them for the time being. At some point in the future, if there are internationally accepted standards, I think that's probably a conversation that can be had. But we're just not ready at this point to have that conversation.
So what you're saying is there are internationally accepted standards by various bodies, which is my understanding, about what sorts of seafood are taken from sustainable fisheries. No, I asked about aquaculture, and the answer was that there aren't the same standards. And my understanding is there are international standards, and there's, in fact, debates about those standards when you talk about Japanese or Norwegians in their whaling. But there are international standards, which I think there's a body that deals with that, about fishing from sustainable fisheries. And, in fact, we banned fishing from salmon, as I recall, from the state of California and certain Northern California in order to make sure that was a sustainable fishery. Isn't that... Am I correct in that?
I don't think it would be appropriate for me to answer that question. From our perspective, the issue we're trying to deal with is a set of standards that describe how the fishery should be fished to be sustainable, and there are internationally accepted standards for that.
Who propounds these standards, then?
There are multiple bodies throughout the world. What this bill specifically does is it says the state of California shall have a baseline standard that everybody has to operate under.
Well, I guess my concern is identifying these standards because there are international bodies that deal with this.
If I could address that issue as well. One of the problems our fisheries face right now in our fishing community is because there's a plethora of international standards. What OPC would do is say, for California, we will embrace these standards reaching the highest level of sustainable fishing, and if a California fishing industry member agrees to abide by those provisions that OPC has helped to focus in amidst all these different international standards, making it easier actually for our fishing community to say, I can live by that, I already practice that, and I'm going to be rewarded for doing what I already do and be able to market as a California sustainable. So what we're doing as a state is vesting in the OPC the authority to sort through these international standards and agree for California fishing community, this is all you have to do to be able to use the label.
Well, I understand that, and I think the idea, it's very important to have sustainable fisheries. What I'm concerned about is the standard applied, how it relates to international standards so that it doesn't harm America and have the reverse effect and harm American fishermen who already, in some instances, I think there are disagreements in these standards. The only other thing I would point out is something that you might want to consider and that I'm very, very concerned about is all fish, the country of origin of fish is supposed to be labeled. Most of it is. A great deal of aquaculture in particular does not meet standards for health, frankly. There was a long series of articles. It's worth taking a look at for 3 or 4 days in the New York Times about a year ago about China. China supplies something like half of the aquaculture fish in the world. It's amazing what's in there. No one should eat it, but we have no standard to deal with that, and we also don't have a standard to deal with certain fish that have higher degrees of things like mercury that some people, and especially pregnant women, ought not to eat. So that's something else you might want. I can't, for those reasons, I can't support this today, but I think you're going in the right direction.
Senator, I appreciate your comments.
Thank you, Mr. Monning. Anyway, we were. If there are any further comments from the members, otherwise this is a candidate for suspense. Without objection, then it will go there. Mr. Monning, are you presenting for Ms. Bass?
Yes, I am.
Go right ahead, very, very briefly.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Members, while I have your attention, we have session at noon. Before we go to session, I'm going to close the roll on everything we've taken up in this hour, and then we'll just have to come back and finish up the remaining items. So don't rush off too soon, because I will close the roll before we go to session, all right? Go ahead, Mr. Monning.
Very briefly, Madam Chair. Thank you. On behalf of Speaker DeBass.
There's a suggested amendment here, yeah.
Yes, and that's acceptable to the Speaker. AB 1394 authorizes the California Workforce Investment Board to accept funds from the federal government, the private sector, and philanthropic organizations to implement the Green Collar Job Strategic Initiative. The Speaker accepts the staff recommendations for amendments as noted in the analysis. AB 1394 provides the type of focus and coordination that is required. Respectfully ask for your aye vote on behalf of Speaker Bass.
Thank you very much. Is there testimony in favor? Any opposition testimony? Finance, do you have a comment? Are you aware of the amendment?
Not aware of the amendment, but
the amendment members would make the bill eligible for a due pass. It reduces the cost pressures, but Finance, go ahead.
We had no costs associated with this bill.
Oh, well, then we're all in agreement, I guess.
I move as amended.
Is there any comments from the members? I have a motion from Mr. Leno, due pass as amended. Please call the roll.
Kehoe?
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Cox? No. Cox, no. Corbett? Aye. Corbett, aye. Denham? Hancock? Aye. Hancock, aye. Leno? Aye. Leno, aye. Oropeza? Price? Aye. Price, aye. Runner? Aye. Runner, no. Walters? No. Walters, no. Wolk? Aye. Wolk, aye. Wyland? Yee? Aye. Yee, aye. 7-3. Wyland, aye. 8-3.
8-3. That bill is out, and I'm going to close the roll because most of us are here now.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank you, members.
Let's see. Did I see Mr. Smythe come in? Mr. Smythe, we already did your bill. We were understood that you were waiving presentation. Oh, you're presenting for Mr. Blakesley. All right. Well, then we're going to take things in order. As I see the front row, it's Mr. Block, Mr. Portantino, and Mr. Smythe. Mr. Block, you're presenting AB 381. Members, I'm not sure we're going to get through everyone, but we'll do our best. Brevity is the soul of success. Go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Senators, good with you this morning. I'm presenting AB 381, which is a bill that allows part-time community college faculty to take advantage of the state disability insurance program that's offered through EDD. Currently, part-time and full-time faculty members who bargain together, the fact they bargain together often precludes part-time faculty from getting state disability insurance because full-time faculty usually have accumulated enough sick leave or are in programs where they can borrow sick leave from their colleagues, so they don't need the long-term or the short-term disability. As a result, one unit, as a unit, they may vote against it. This bill will allow the part-timers within a unit to vote separately to have short-time disability that applies to them. In these terrible economic times, it's very important because
Thank you, Mr. Block. I think the members get the idea. We'll take testimony in favor.
Madam Chair and members, Jonathan Leibman on behalf of the Faculty Association of California Community College. This is the sponsor. We see no additional demand on the general fund. We've worked together with both labor and management to smooth out any differences in the bill, and we've received broad bipartisan support. We ask for your aye vote.
Thank you.
Next, Dolores Sanchez, California Federation of Teachers, in strong support.
Thank you very much.
Madam Chair and Committee, Bonnie Slauson representing the Chief Executive Officers of the community colleges and the California Community College Trustee Boards of the Community College League, and we are in support of this measure. It helps our part-time faculty participate in this program.
Thank you very much. Additional testimony in favor? Is there any opposition testimony?
Madam Chair, I move the bill.
Thank you, Ms. Corbett. And we're going to hear from Finance briefly.
We have minor and absorbable costs to administer the bill.
Thank you very much. Members, any comments? Otherwise, we have a motion from Senator Corbett. Please call the roll.
Kehoe?
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Cox? Cox, aye. Corbett? Corbett, aye. Denham? Hancock? Hancock, aye. Leno? Leno, aye. Oropeza? Price? Price, aye. Runner? Runner, aye. Walters? Walters, aye. Wolk? Wolk, aye. Wyland? Wyland, aye. Yee? Yee, aye. 11-0.
11-0, that bill is out, Mr. Block.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
And Mr. Portantino, come right up. This is AB 1361 on that dangerous stretch of road in your district. There were some suggested amendments.
We're happy to take them to alleviate the cost pressure.
Very good. Very good. Go right ahead, Mr. Portantino.
And I will be brief.
And that will make it a due pass as amended, members.
Thank you, Madam Chair and members. This is a district bill. A father and a 12-year-old daughter were tragically killed on this stretch of road. We've worked closely with Caltrans, the City of La Cañada, Flint Ridge, and Senator Liu on crafting a piece of legislation that has broad bipartisan support. The other 3 stretches of road in California that have this similar truck ban were all done through legislation. That was actually Caltrans' suggestion. We have no opposition. It's a local safety measure that's been a long time coming, and I urge an aye vote.
Thank you very much. And is there testimony in favor?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair and members. Brooks Ellison on behalf of the City of La Cañada, Flint Ridge, in support.
That'll be a move as amended when we get there, Mr. Price. Thank you very much. There's one small technical amendment that you want to add in also. Mr. McKenzie. Oh, you wanted to add commercial production?
Yes.
Oh, okay, so
yes.
that's acceptable to the committee as well.
Absolutely.
Is there any testimony in opposition? Seeing none, Finance?
No file, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Any other comments, members? We have a motion due pass as amended, and I'll call the roll, please.
Kehoe?
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Cox?
Aye.
Cox, aye. Corbett? Corbett, aye. Denham? Hancock? Hancock, aye. Leno? Leno, aye. Oropeza? Price? Price, aye. Runner? Runner, aye. Walters? Walters, aye. Wolk? Wolk, aye. Wyland? Wyland, aye. Yee? Yee, aye. 11-0.
11-0, Mr. Portantino, that bill is out.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Smythe, before you come up, let me, because the hour is so close, members, I'd like to go down in file order and take up all the bills we've heard and close out those rolls, since the vast majority of us are here. So let's see, we should start with SCA 14, I think. We didn't close that? Is that? Nava. We started out with Nava. Denise Ducheney came and presented. that went to suspense, so unless there's objections to SCA 14, we will move on to, let's see, Ms. Hayashi? Mr. Nava. Mr. Nava, AB 86.
We need a motion on that.
And I need a motion do pass on that, members. Mr. Price moves, and we'll call the roll.
Kehoe.
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Cox. Cox, no. Corbett. Corbett, aye. Denham. Hancock. Hancock, aye. Leno. Leno, aye. Oropeza. Price. Price, aye. Runner. Walters. Walters, aye. Wolk. Wyland. Runner,
This
aye.
is, members, AB 86. We're in the middle of the roll call. Mr. Runner is an aye. Go ahead, continue.
Wolk. Wolk, aye. Wyland. Wyland, aye. You're off. Wolk is off.
Okay,
Yeah, you were not. Yee. Yee, aye.
9-1.
9-1, that bill is out. And we're doing, Mr. Smythe was suspense. Ms. Lowenthal, this is AB 248, members, by Ms. Lowenthal. Are we there? Do you want to call the roll, please?
Corbett. Corbett, aye. Denham. Hancock. Hancock, aye. Oropeza. Runner. Runner, aye. 11-0.
11-0, that bill is out. Mr. Jeffries, we're still waiting for. Ms. Saldana put that over. Mr. Fuentes, vended water, went to suspense. Let's see, Mr. Emerson, AB 318. We have some absent members there.
Denham. Hancock. Hancock, aye. Oropeza. Runner. Runner, aye. 11-0.
11-0, that bill is out. The next item by Mr. Emerson went to suspense, AB 501 and AB 1071. We'll call the roll on that.
Denham. Hancock. Hancock, aye. Oropeza. Runner. Runner, aye. Wyland.
This is AB 1071 by Mr. Emerson.
Wyland, aye. 11-0.
11-0, that bill is out.
Madam Chair?
Yes.
501, there was an amendment that made it to pass.
Oh, beg your pardon. You're quite right. I'm corrected. Then we'll take up AB 501 now and close that roll. This is AB 501 by Mr. Emerson, Physicians and Surgeons. Call the roll, please.
Denham. Hancock. Hancock, aye. Oropeza. Runner. Runner, aye. Walters.
This is AB 501 by Mr. Emerson.
Walters, aye. 11-0.
11-0, that bill is out. Let's see. Mr. Fletcher, we took that up, correct?
Yes.
Do you want to, this is AB 356 by Mr. Fletcher.
Denham. Hancock. Hancock, aye. Oropeza. Runner. Runner, aye. 11-0.
11-0, that bill is out. Did we close out Mr. Block? Oh, Mr. De Leon.
Yes,
Mr.
and
Block, we completed, right? Mr. Block, we
And
completed?
we need a motion on 400.
Next is AB 400 by Mr. De Leon. We need a motion on this. It was a do pass. Mr. Leno moves the bill. Please call the roll.
Kehoe.
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Cox. Cox, aye. Corbett. Corbett, aye. Denham. Hancock. Hancock, aye. Leno. Leno, aye. Oropeza. Price. Price, aye. Runner. Runner, aye. Walters. Walters, aye. Wolk. Wolk, aye. Wyland. Wyland, aye. Yee. Yee, aye. 11-0.
11-0, that bill is out. And let's see, Mr. Monning, that went to suspense, correct? Portantino, did we close that out?
Yes.
And Bass, did we close that out?
Yes.
Okay. Then we will go to Mr. Smythe and take up, on behalf of Mr. Blakesley. This is Mr. Blakesley's item, members, AB 825. And before you start, Mr. Smythe, I misspoke, members. Back AB 254 by Mr. Jeffries, that was sent to the floor. That was 28.8'd, so we're not going to hear that one today. As was Mr. Eng's AB 1515 at the bottom of the file. So those two are gone. And now Mr. Smythe is going to take up Mr. Blakesley's bill. That's AB 825 on crab traps. Go right ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. And first, on behalf of Mr. Blakesley, would like to accept the amendments that were offered as author amendments, and they would allow.
That requires a report by Fish and Game, I think. Yeah.
Yes, and so what this bill would do is allow the presence of both rock crab and Dungeness crab on board vessels within the Dungeness season. Currently, fishermen who have permits for both types of crabs must take separate trips for each type of crab. And what this will do is uphold species protections and seasonal restrictions while reduce wasteful practices by the fishermen. Obviously, with the impacts of the salmon season and the weak Dungeness crab harvest this year, it has compounded the troubles for our local fishermen here in the state. AB 25 is a small fix which would allow these fishermen to avoid wasteful extra trips, helping during these tough economic times. But to be clear, this bill would allow fishermen, while it allows them to retain legal crab size of both species, all other biological regulations are upheld. This in no way minimizes that or tries to get around that. It's just a way to help our local fishing industry. It's supported by the harbor districts all along the coast and has received support through the legislative process.
Thanks, Mr. Smythe. Testimony in favor? Okay. Any other testimony? Is there opposition testimony? Comment from Finance?
No file, Madam Chair.
I have a motion from Mr. Leno to do pass as amended. Any comments, members? Then we'll call the roll.
Kehoe?
Aye.
Kehoe, aye. Cox? Aye. Cox, aye. Corbett? Aye. Corbett, aye. Denham? Hancock? Aye. Hancock, aye. Leno? Aye. Leno, aye. Oropeza? Price? Aye. Price, aye. Runner? Aye. Runner, aye. Walters? Aye. Walters, aye. Wolk? Aye. Wolk, aye. Wyland? Aye. Wyland, aye. Yee? Aye. Yee, aye. 11 to 0.
11 to 0, members. That bill is out.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, I want to make sure there isn't an oversight on my vote on AB 501, which I do support.
AB 501 by Mr. Emerson.
I may somehow have missed that, or there may have been an oversight there, but I do support that bill. Okay.
Mr. Weiland, you're an aye.
Thank you.
Members, I really would like to, I try to be careful going down the roll. I'd like to handle the discussion about who voted for what prior to closing the roll or at the end of the hearing. And if I'm going too fast, please stop me. You know, we're not trying to, the 10 seconds is not going to throw us off kilter that much. There's a couple of more wave-in presentations, and then I think members will take up whoever isn't here as long as they let us keep working. I guess Ms. Caballero would be next on the wave presentations. This is AB 344, State Highway Relinquishment. It's headed to suspense. Is there any testimony on AB 344 by Ms. Caballero? Any support testimony? Any opposition testimony? Finance, do you have a comment?
Yes, we have identified unknown and acceptable costs for this measure and point out that it would also likely result in long-term savings.
Alrighty. Any other, there's a couple items. Any other testimony or comments? Then without objection, we'll go to suspense. And our next wave presentation is Mr. Mendoza's AB 654. Is there testimony in favor of AB 654? Welcome.
Good morning, Jennifer Baker, Good morning, Jennifer Baker with the California State Teachers Retirement System, the sponsor of the measure. We ask for your support.
Thank you very much. Is there any other testimony in favor? Is there opposition testimony? Finance, do you have a comment?
Yes, we have one-time costs of about $1 million and then annual revenue of about $3.2 million.
We agree. This is a suspense candidate without objection. Then it'll go to suspense file. Members, the authors are not here on AB 395 and on AB 1276. Yep. Then we'll put them over. We'll put those two items over till next week. That way, we don't have to return this afternoon. All right.
Okay.
All right. Then we've completed the roll. Any questions? That's correct. That's correct. All righty. Then we finished the file. Thank you, everyone. Meeting's adjourned.